Hello, everybody. So it's been a while since we did a live stream, so I wanted to hop in here because we are having another launch month this month, and you're going to be seeing me do some live feeds a lot more frequently this month. So for all of those that are new to this group, welcome. And I just want to specifically take note that this is a psychoeducational group, and it's really for individuals that are ready to regain their ability to navigate life in a new way, right? In a way that feels true and resonant with their essential self. To really stop being held back by comparing, doubting, or waiting for something to improve in your life, right? So the underlying premise for this group is really that you cannot make radical transformations or attract the kind of romantic love life that you want alone. You can't do it alone. You have to create attachments and connections to other people. And you really can't do it if you're stuck in the same behavioral patterns and mindsets that you have always had. So, and even having said that, mindset is really what I find trips up most people when they're on that path to finding love and spiritual enlightenment. Or I should say alignment. Enlightenment's kind of a big word, right? So there's a few things that people have mentioned upon entering the group recently, and I just want to share them here on the feed. So I still believe I can find the love I crave so badly, but my open-mindedness has reached a limit, and I don't want to become so jaded that I don't end up finding it. I struggle with anxiety and fears around intimacy, trust issues, and healthy boundaries. I hate being alone and I never feel good enough. I also don't know what makes me happy anymore. I struggle with the ability to see what I deserve. I'm hurting and I'm trying to understand how it would ever work for the both of us and or to let go of it gracefully. All right. Now, one thing I've really noticed is that there's lots of stories of pain, feelings of rejection around what happened, kind of a desperation to figure out how it worked. What advice can you give me to fix this or make this better on the news feed as well? And I just want to remind everyone that this group, while it is a place to, on some level, share your pain, it's really more of a place to be inspired and to learn more about how to expand your consciousness and create spaciousness around these experiences so that these don't become your scars, right? These are not the things that come to define you. More so, they're kind of lines of demarcation for the greatest transformations of your life. Your relationships are ultimately what are going to propel you towards the greatest transformations of your life. And of course, those are going to be the ones that happen inside. Those are going to be the ones that help you ascend spiritually. Okay, that's the thesis of this group, really. So in today's video, what I really want to do is I want to explore further the concept of wonder, okay? And I'm going to respond to 3 questions specifically. What is wonder? What is wonder's relationship to pain? And how can wonder help me take charge of my life again? I'm also going to recommend 3 exercises for embracing wonder in your life. So first, I want to address the question, what is wonder? What does wonder have to do with anything? Why is a group on attachment talking about wonder? Well, to my mind, wonder is actually a willingness to learn from despair. It's wonder that really allows us to ultimately let go of the thing that we have lost and to realize that nothing is ever really lost because everything is always connected. Okay, it's just changed. The nature, the proximity of your relationship has changed. Okay. So if you could imagine like hiking up a mountain, right? So as you're going up there, you're sore, you're sweaty, you're tired, you're hungry, your feet hurt. Maybe you're regretting your decision to go on this expedition altogether, especially if it starts raining or hailing or being really uncomfortable, right? And you're just asking yourself like, what possessed me? Why did I ever want to climb up this hill? But then you get to the top of that mountain and there's this big, beautiful, tremendous vista in front of you, right? You just do a 360, you turn in all directions and you can see so far, farther than you ever could from the ground, right? From further down the mountain. And there's a paradoxical thing that happens in that moment where you feel so small, and yet it's the largest feeling you've had in a long time, right? There's this tremendous sense of accomplishment. I made it up this mountain. I put my flag in the ground. I've staked my claim. And yet you feel like a teeny tiny speck in the world, right? In the galaxy, in the whole of existence. And yet that sense of being small, while at the same time feeling so accomplished, actually makes you feel more connected to things. And that is wonder, right? And so it's kind of like when you take an inhalation, right? And you exhale. There's kind of a long pause before you inhale again. Because you've taken in so much oxygen, the body is able to operate. The heart actually beats a few times without the need for more oxygen. And you're just existing, right? And in that moment of suspension, we're still enough. We are just still enough to receive our soul's wisdom, at least in my opinion. And that sense of wonder really speaks to our hunger to be moved by things, to be engaged and impassioned with the world and to really take pleasure in it, and to really be attuned to, fascinated by it, and grateful for it. And when we're in the throes of a breakup, oftentimes we have tied up our sense of wonder with our partner. Wow, what is this fabulous, fascinating feeling that I have? But really what you're experiencing in the throes of infatuation or of being in love is that you are in a greater alignment with yourself. There's something about the stimulus in that relationship has put you into a greater alignment with yourself. Because when you're in love with someone, you usually feel better about yourself, don't you? There's something about it, but your point of focus has attached itself to something outside of you. And so when that goes, you lament the relationship, but more so you're lamenting how good you felt about yourself in that relationship, how much in alignment it brings you to have a love feeling, right? And so when we can connect with things, specifically with things like nature, we can recover that sense of oneness again. And so wonder really compels us to continually seek out these enlivening moments, right? Now, David White calls this the conversational nature of reality. Now, it's in my opinion that it's in that space that we discover what I call our essential artist, but it's an aspect of ourselves that we never forgot how to be creative, okay? It never really fully accepted when you would say, I can't draw, right? Or I'm not creative. Right? Or I don't know how to do those things. Whenever you say I can't, I don't, I'm not, then you're speaking from a place outside of yourself and away from source and away from alignment. When you allow for that spaciousness, when you release that breath and there's that moment of stillness that you have because you've taken in enough to feel saturated and satiated, and that stillness, that spaciousness opens up and you can recover that essential artist. You can recover that wonder. You can be in that playful space where you can do anything and you can be anything, right? And so I believe that with creative acts, we touch source energy. And that provides an apparatus through which all desire and fulfillment is eventually funneled, okay? So and oftentimes a connection to nature specifically can spark that creativity. In fact, a journalist, her name was Marganita Lasky, she did a research study and she found that most common triggers for what she called transcendental ecstasies actually come from nature. And in particular, water, mountains, trees, flowers, sunshine, dusk, sunrise, dramatically bad weather. Also springtime, right? Newness, new life. And so she hypothesized that these feelings of ecstasy that we got from nature were actually a psychological and emotional response that is hardwired into our human biology. And I loved that because so often I talk about attachment as being something that's hardwired into our biology, right? And so this leads me to the first exercise that I want you to do to reconnect with your sense of wonder, okay? And it's very simple. I want you to think about at least one aspect of nature that awes you. something that just overwhelms you with its beauty and or its power. And I'd love for you to write it in the comments below if you'd be willing to share. What is one aspect of nature that overwhelms and awes you and always connects you with your source alignment? Okay, that's our first one. Now, second question is, what is wonder's relationship to pain? Okay. Now, it's in my opinion that through these phases of strife and pain and despair that we have in our lives, what I'm going to call contrast, it's actually through these experiences that we best appreciate the power of wonder, right? Because wonder and despair are really more or less two sides of the same coin. When you open yourself up to one, you open yourself up to the other. And if you're able to find grace on the other side of despair, wonder and creativity lie there. It's really the fruit of that kind of restoration. And so as deeply as you dive in, that's as high as you will rise. Christine Baldwin says, as far as you are willing to venture into the shadow, so far you may venture into the light, right? And so I want to share a story that I used to have, which was I was really afraid to release my pain because, as you can see, maybe see the drawings behind me, whatever else, I've always been a creative person, and that was something that I really prided myself on. But I felt like if I released my pain, if I was too happy, then I would have nothing left to write about. My art would suck. It would be trite. It would be watered down. It would just be like a pop song on the radio. That, the seeds of my most intriguing art products and creations were actually suffering. And worst of all, that I would betray parts of myself that were still loyal to whomever or to whatever I had lost that was fueling my inspiration, right? But then I had to ask myself, are there not as many love songs as there are sad songs, right? Are there not as many beautiful expressions of joy and of happiness as there are of pain and of loss? Are we not equally as moved by these two forms of expression, right? They elicit our emotions in equal measure. So a lot of us develop pretty extensive vocabulary for describing our pain, don't we? But the true robust quality of our experience cannot really be expressed without developing an equally expansive vocabulary for wonder, for ecstasy, for joy, for love, and for transformation. Because remember, we want to call these experiences lines of demarcation in your life that mark the biggest transformations that you experienced. And that is what this group is really about. It's not just about sharing the sob stories and getting a lot of, oh, poor you, I feel you feedback. Not that there's anything wrong with that. And I see a lot of it in the feed, and I'm so happy about the authenticity there. But without a framework, where does that go? Right? Without a framework, we're just kind of spinning our wheels, right? And so that's what this group here is for, is to give you a framework. We're going to talk more about frameworks and how to work through your grief feelings in the next live video that we do. But remember to be always thinking about, what is the frame in which I am exploring this topic? What is the frame around which I'm going to situate this feeling that I'm having, right? And so that brings us to the second exercise, which is I want you to identify at least one creative work. It could be, some of you have done this already in the feed when I've asked for love songs and things like that, but it could be a song, it could be a painting, it could be a story, it could be a movie, it could be a poem, anything, a dance, anything, one creative expression that moves you, that you think is beautiful, that allows you to feel a sense of wonder, and that was derived from pain. Okay, something gorgeous, beautiful, wonderful, creative expression, but it was derived from pain. I want you to write it in the comments below if you can think of one thing like that. That's the first part. The second part of exercise 2 is to identify something beautiful that moves you, that inspires you just as equally, but it was sourced from joy. And it was sourced from a place of contentment, upliftment, inspiration, and wonder. Okay? Those two things, I would like to see them in the comments below if you're watching this video. Okay, and that brings us to our third and final question, which is, How can wonder help me take charge of my life again? Okay. So if we remain in a dark place, then yes, we are human in our rawest form, typically in those moments, right? But we attract and we become sensitized only to that which keeps us in a state of victimhood, right? So our aloneness, our isolation, our essential sense of unworthiness, right? If we just play that record on repeat, then the only thing we become sensitized to is anything in our experience that confirms that provides evidence to whatever that narrative, whatever that story is that's just stuck on repeat in your head, right? But if we are able to cultivate with that vocabulary that I referred to, which makes wonder more accessible to you, then yes, we are still raw. But instead of one option, now there are two. And so that is, you either close down, you become a closed system, or you are split wide open. I had a professor who once told me an open heart or a broken heart is an open heart. And I think that's so true. I think that it is so true for people who choose grace, for people who choose wonder, right? Because sometimes a broken heart just leads to a cranky, crotchety old curmudgeon who dies alone and unhappy in life. It happens. It's some of our worst fears. And you know what? It's a valid fear because it happens. And you have a choice in that. That's the point I want to make. Because if you do decide to close down, it's like a slow death. There's an aspect of yourself that just atrophies, okay? If we open up further, you don't only survive, but you actually learn how to live better, okay? And so it's wonder that really allows you to live, to endure, to assign meaning to your experience, and to assume authority over your life, and to take charge of it. And it's in that pursuit, basically a cultivation of meaning, that ultimately returns us to our sense of efficacy, right? It's what gives us control over our lives again. Well, I think that this means that. And so understanding what that means in the context of my life allows me to understand the meaning of the next thing I want to call in, right? Because it's a moment of contrast. This is kind of Abraham Hicks kind of stuff, law of attraction. Once you understand the contrast it has created, you know better what you do want. And so you're sending that vibration out into the world, and then the practice becomes reducing the resistance to receiving it. And that is an internal process. That's a process where assuming your creativity, assuming a stance of approaching the world from a place of wonder is going to allow you to really embrace an alignment with your source energy. And that's going to call in the kind of love and romantic life that you want. And so, of course, we're all getting along the best that we can, but have you actually decided on that? Have you actually decided on that? Have you just fallen into your circumstances, or did you at one point play a role or have a moment where you got to make a decision about how you moved through something, how you lived through something, how you made it through something, right? So this is the third exercise. Right now, I'd like you to write down, if you're willing, in the comment feed below here, or in your own journals or whatever is comfortable for you. I'd like you to write down one decision that you will make tomorrow morning when you wake up. One teeny tiny small decision about your day, about how you're going to move through the day no matter what happens. Now, you could even think of this as like a social experiment. So for example, I decide I'm going to be kind to everyone that is rude to me today, no matter what. It's not going to change the way I am. Someone's rude to me, I'm going to be twice as nice back to them. It's kind of an interesting social experiment, if you ask me. Or maybe it's a decision to reduce your stress response, right? So whenever I feel anxious or upset, I'm going to attend to my breath, and I'm going to count 5 breaths before I offer any kind of response, whatever situation it is, right? Or maybe I'll make a decision to improve my self-care practices. So I decide to make one healthy food choice for every bad food choice I make. And I have to tell you, I prefer that approach, incidentally, to food and consuming things, right? Because if you take things away, you feel deprived, and it usually has a negative effect. But if you say, for every bad food choice I make, I'm going to make a good food choice, over time, the good food choices become more, because you don't feel like you're being deprived to make one, right? So as you get good as starting to stack these decisions one on top of the other, you're stacking intentions and you're raising your vibration. And the more you do that, if you start small with one teeny tiny little promise to yourself, and then you just kind of stack them one on top of the other, you're anchoring your energy in such a way that you're starting to pull it into a sense of alignment. And that is going to shift not only what happens in your life and your perspective of the world, but you're going to raise your vibration, and all of the things that you have been desiring are going to start gravitating towards you. You don't have to go out and find the one. The one is there. You just have to raise your vibration in alignment with the thing that you have been fantasizing about. Okay? And so to finish this off, I am offering a 5-day challenge for the end of this month it's a free 5-day challenge for anybody that wants to explore topics like this. And so I'm just going to let you know that if you've ever wondered, how do I know if my feelings are real? How do I stop wanting for someone that I know is terrible for me? How do I stop self-sabotaging when it comes to my love life? How do I learn to trust my gut when it got me into this mess? How do I approach my relationships from a place of consciousness and personal responsibility? How do I quiet the inner judge and embrace myself with love? How do I stop trying to save my partners from themselves? How do I make myself more comfortable with emotional intimacy? These are the questions I've been seeing on the feed. If any of these apply to you, you are going to love this challenge. It's called 5 Days to Ignite Your Love Light. Okay, and over the course of this challenge, you're going to learn how to take fear out of your desire, because often that's what pushes it away. How to identify and release 2 essential types of limiting beliefs that I see a lot of people have. How to use mindfulness and creative practices to begin calling in that or creating that love vibration, right? And ultimately how to show up for an ascended partner, okay? And I use that word very intentionally, an ascended partner, not a soulmate, not a twin flame, not a blah, 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 an ascended partner. And I'm going to tell you more about what that means in the challenge, so you better sign up. And so in total, the challenge actually includes 5 daily live streams. I'm going to be getting in here, doing a live stream every day. 5 emails you'll get a day, including a synopsis and a special assignment for you. Access to a recap page for any days or live streams you might miss. Exclusive access to a live Q&A on day 5, as well as a guided soul journey. Access to this private Facebook group for anyone who's not already in it, and a special bonus offer on day 5 if you like the challenge and you want to experience more. So if any of that sounds delicious to you, there should be a link to register in the caption of this video. Otherwise, there will be a pitch pinned to the top of this feed. And again, if you liked anything that you saw or listened to in this video, I'd love to see those comments in the thread below, especially one aspect of nature that inspires wonder for you. One beautiful thing that sprung from pain that moves you, one beautiful thing that sprung from joy that moves you, and finally, one small, teeny tiny decision that you can make tomorrow that will help you start to stack your good intentions for raising your vibration and living in a place of inspiration, right? Rather than reacting to the circumstances around you. So I hope you enjoyed today's live stream, and I'm going to be back later this week. We're going to be kicking it up a notch this month because we're launching our challenge for the last week in March. So I hope you'll join us and have a great day.